Hi friends, it's me Michelle here with another video, and today I wanted to do the mid-year freakout tag. A couple of my booktuber friends have done their videos so far and I've really enjoyed watching them, so yeah, I thought I'd do it. It's a good way to kind of reflect back on my reading year so far and see if there are any goals I have for my future reading for the year or not. I'm not usually one to make goals as far as how many books go or what have you. I have read 43 books so far, so with that in mind, I'm gonna tackle these prompts and yeah, talk about some of the books I've read so far and just kind of an update on how my reading year is going so far. I can't believe we're already halfway through the year too. That's mind-blowing. So the first question here is, what's the best book you've read so far in 2025? I'm happy to say I have a few contenders for best book of the year so far. Looking back, the one that probably sticks out the most for me and has stuck with me ever since I've read it has got to be, it's actually, yeah, overall book I have to pick is The Specimen by Jema Fixon. This one was so compelling and it combined a few different genres in one book. Like, it's got a murder mystery, it has a missing person mystery, it's a family drama, it is a historical book, it is a suspense thriller. It's got all the elements that I love in a great story. It's really well written and the characters here are so realistic. I just couldn't stop reading this book. It has also a little touch of the Gothic, as you can kind of tell by the cover, but I did talk about this in a previous video. What it is, it takes place in 1826. We meet Isabel Tate, who finds herself by chance staring at a tiny human heart floating in a jar. It should be of little consequence. Dr. Burnett is renowned for his collection of oddities and medical specimens, and this, a juvenile heart with a damaged mitral valve, is not the strangest thing on display, except that the condition is rare and Isabel's young son, who has been missing for months, suffered from the same ailment. A phantom pulse beats in Isabel's ears. She knows something here isn't right. Missing persons cases are all too common in Edinburgh, where people simply vanish like mist. But Burnett is obsessed with his specimens. How far would he go to acquire a new one? Determined to investigate, Isabel joins his staff as the keeper of his collection. What she'll unearth, though, is far worse than any of her nightmares. So that just gives you an idea. Fantastic book, 5 out of 5, and one of my favorites of the year by far. I've had a lot of good ones, but yeah, a close second or maybe even tied for first would be Havoc by Christopher Bolin. I really, really love this book as well. Just a fantastic reading experience and yeah, very gripping. I could not put this one down either. So 2 of my top favorites of the year so far. The next prompt here, best sequel you've read in 2025 so far. I haven't read any sequels. Number 3, new releases you haven't read yet but want to. Well, I know Stephen King has a new book out called Never Flinch. I'm tempted to read it, but I've heard that it centers around Holly Gibney, one of his favorite characters to write about. And I liked her in the Mr. Mercedes series, and I did enjoy the book Holly as well, but I don't think I love Holly Gibney as much as Stephen King does, so I'm not sure that I would like to read more about her. I'm kind of like, I'd like him to move on and you know, move away from that character, but I'll see. I'll think about it. Maybe the whole book isn't centered on her. Like, the book Holly, she's not the main focus of the book. She's in there, but there's a really great story to it, so I enjoyed that one. So I'll have to wait and see. That's up in the air whether or not I read Never Flinch, but who knows? We'll see. There's also that new Frederick Frederick Bachman book. I do like his writing. I loved Anxious People by him. So I might check that one out as well. Number 4, most anticipated for the second half of 2025. Well, the ones I'm anticipating aren't necessarily new releases or anything, or books that have come into my radar lately, but I do have some on my TBR that I'm really looking forward to reading. The first one here is one called Curfew by Jane Cowie. This is a futuristic kind of sci-fi-ish book in a world where, I'll just read you this. Imagine a near future Britain in which women dominate workplaces, public spaces, and government, where the gender pay gap no longer exists and motherhood opens doors instead of closing them, where women are no longer afraid to walk home alone, to cross a dark parking lot, to catch their last train, where all the men are electronically tagged and not allowed out after 7 p.m. But the curfew hasn't made life easy for all women. Sarah is a single mother who happily rebuilt her life after her husband Greg was sent to prison for breaking curfew. Now he's about to be released, and Sarah isn't expecting a happy reunion, given that she's the reason he was sent there. So, as you can imagine, I mean, this might be a controversial subject to read about for some people. It might be off-putting. I can suspend my disbelief and imagine this kind of futuristic scenario just for fun. I mean, you know, I can't imagine this actually happening, but it would be an interesting world to read about, I think, you know, where men are being subjected to a curfew every day. And if they break curfew, they have to go to jail, and all the repercussions of that, and the family dynamics and the relationships and the impact on society. Like, if something like that ever happened. Not that I think it would, but yeah, I just think it sounded like a really fun premise for a book. So I'm looking forward to reading that one. I'm also, on the same kind of sci-fi vein, looking forward to reading Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Did not like The Martian, but I've heard great things about this one. So this one's still on my radar. Still want to get to it in 2025. Another one I want to get to is the new Janine Cummins book, Speak to Me of Home. Beautiful cover as well. And then for my July buddy read, All Fours by Miranda July. So I'm looking forward to reading this one in the very near future as well. Number 5, the biggest disappointment of 2025 so far. This might be a controversial opinion. I know this book is a lot of people's favorite book of all time. A much beloved author. The book I'm talking about, well, actually I have 2 big disappointments, but I'll get to this one first. I had this book on my shelf since about 2012, 2013, whenever it first came out. And I was really looking forward to getting this book read and to see what all the hype was about. It was a very hyped book on YouTube, as well as, you know, Goodreads, high-rated book. And the book I'm talking about is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I gave this book 1 star. I gave it 1 star because of the beautiful cover art. And yeah, did not enjoy the characters. They seemed very flat and 2-dimensional to me. They didn't seem realistic. I didn't buy into the story. And this is a good example of why I'm kind of picky about World War II books, because I don't know, that just seemed to kind of, I don't know. Yes, the stakes were incredibly high in this book for the characters, and that is what, you know, caused a lot of the drama in here and a lot of the emotions, etc. But to me, it was, I don't want to say trivialized. It was trivialized, but it kind of was like, I don't know, just would have preferred it to be treated more seriously, is what I'm trying to say here. And it just felt like this author was doing like deliberate, emotional, kind of heartstring pulling, like almost felt, not manipulative, but yeah, it just was kind of cliche and really sappy and corny dialogue between the characters. And yeah, I just didn't buy in. I didn't buy into what was happening with them or their motivations, or, you know, we follow two sisters and they were, you know, both angry. And one of them was, you know, they're both holding grudges against each other for their entire lives. And, you know, when they could have easily just forgiven each other. That's, I think, what I was craving, was for them to just get over it and move on and not hold grudges and stuff. Like, I didn't, yeah. So, big thumbs down for this, 1 star. I apologize if you love this book, and I do understand why you would love it. Like, if you are someone who enjoys, you know, kind of heart-touching, romantic, kind of sentimental books, I think you would enjoy this, but it just wasn't for me at all. I didn't even think it was particularly well written. So yeah, I would read from Kristen Hanna again. I just will never spend money on a Kristen Hanna book again. I'll get a copy of something from the library maybe, but yeah. So big disappointment after all these years. Finally read it, skimmed through the end because I just wanted to get it over with, and yeah. So that's that. Thank you for listening to me on a mini rant about the Nightingale. The biggest surprise of 2025. Biggest surprise, what I did not see this coming, how I loved this book so much, was a recent read from my library called Holiday Country by first-time novelist Inci Atrek. This is a book set in Turkey. We're following Ada, a young girl who goes to her mother and grandmother's villa at this seaside little village. It's a kind of a resort type of place, although it's off the beaten track. There's not a lot of tourists there. It's mostly locals who go vacation there in the summertime. And so she spends her summers there with her mother and grandmother, and then in the off season, they return home to Northern California. Her parents have split up due to her father cheating on her mother. And so Ada, who is 19 years old, is kind of going through a rough time, but she loves being in Turkey and spending her summers in this little village, and they all know each other there. All the neighbors know each other's business. The local store where they buy groceries and alcohol and everything, they don't even pay for their stuff. The shopkeeper's son writes it down in a ledger and keeps IOUs for everybody, and they pay it off at the end of the summer. Like, it was just such a fantastic atmosphere to read about, and this author puts you right there. Like, you can smell the sea water and the, you know, among the olive trees and the lemons and the Mediterranean sun and the sand, and everything was just so acutely palatable. I loved it. So we're following Ada, and it's her first person narration in this book, and she one day encounters a man in his 50s who has a history with her mother. There's a big reveal that happens about halfway through. I'm not going to say anything more, but it changes the trajectory of Ada's relationship with her mother and grandmother. And yeah, it's just, there's so much to this story, way more than meets the eye. I was expecting like a kind of a romantic summer book, but this is that, but so much more than that. So I would really highly recommend this one, Holiday Country. Yeah, 4 out of 5 stars. I might do a dedicated review of this book so I can talk about it at greater length, but I loved it. It was a surprise. I did not expect to love it as much as I did. Number 7, favorite new author, debut or new to you? Well, I mean, I've had a lot of really great books this year, but I have to say, one of the books I enjoyed the most, and one of the authors' writing I enjoyed the most, has to go to Havoc by Christopher Bolin. I had never heard of this guy before. I will read everything he writes in the future, so I really enjoyed this one. One of my favorite books of the year, and yeah, definitely a new to me author that I would read from again. Number 8. This is a fun one. Newest fictional crush. Well, I've never ever had a crush on a book character before. So I'm just going to go ahead and put up a couple photographs here of a fictional crush I have. Although this person I didn't meet in a book. I met from watching a Netflix show that you may recall called Narcos, and where I first met my fictional boyfriend. Enjoy. Let's just take a moment. What can I say? I'm sure he's a lot of people's fictional boyfriend. Or crush. Thank you for indulging me. Number 9. New favorite character. Well, I have to say one of the characters I've enjoyed reading from the most this year has got to be Blake Porter from The Tenant by Frida McFadden. He is outrageous. He's an idiot. He's a complete jackass. Like any adjective you want to insert, go right ahead. But he was just so much fun to read. His dialogue cracked me up. I found myself laughing through the majority of this book, just at this ridiculous things he would say. He was like an agent of chaos. He created so much crap in his life that was unnecessary, just from his poor decision-making skills, his impulse control problems, and I just couldn't get enough of this guy. In fact, Frida McFadden, if you're watching, please write another book with Blake Porter in it so I can have more of this character. I loved reading about him in this book. Number 10, a book that made you cry. I'm not a crier. I don't get emotionally that affected usually by books. Every now and then, however, if I had to pick a book that almost made me cry, made me kind of feel like, emotional, I would have to say it would be The Riveter by Jack Wang. Now, this is a World War II romantic book done right, in my opinion. It was just amazing. I loved the characters. I loved the depictions of the boot camp that this young man goes to enlist in the army. I loved the relationship in here. It was very realistic and just really emotionally affecting. So I'd have to go with this book. If I didn't cry, but if any book were to make me cry, it would have been this one. Alrighty. A book that made you happy. A book that made me happy. Well, I mean, pretty much all of them except the ones I didn't like. But let's see. Oh boy. Yeah, I have to go with probably The Postcard by Anne Barrist, because this is the first autofiction I've ever read, and I felt so, engrossed in this story. It was a joy to read this book. As depressing as some of the subject matter was in here, it just made me happy reading this. And the ending of this book was so satisfying. It left me feeling hopeful and happy, and I really, really enjoyed this. This was a 5 out of 5 stars. the postcard. All right, favorite book to movie adaptation. Well, none of the books I've read this year have been adapted into film as far as I know. And you know what? I'm not a big fan of movies. Like, books are by far my favorite entertainment. I've canceled all my streaming services. I don't have any. I might watch something on one of the free ones like Tubi or something, but I no longer have Netflix or Amazon Prime or any of those, so I don't watch movies much. If we're talking about, favorite book to movie adaptation ever, I might have to say The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold. I loved that book, and I absolutely loved the movie adaptation. It was brilliant. If you like that book, I'm sure you would like that movie as well. So, yeah. Number 13, favorite video this year. I don't know. Let's see. I can't really think of one off the top of my head, but maybe I haven't made my favorite yet. Maybe that's coming up in the next 6 months. Who knows? It's hard to say a favorite. I really enjoyed recently doing that 101 Days of Summer tag by Dwayne over at the Reading Room 1972. That was a really fun tag to do. So I did like reading that, or I did like that video. I was able to put a lot of photos of my camping trips in there, so I enjoyed that. So yeah, I'm gonna go with that one. 14, the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. I don't know. You know what? I really, really love the cover of Havoc. It's just kind of like a spiral staircase, and I love the purple and the red. I don't know. It's very striking. Again, I also enjoyed the cover of The Specimen. I think that one's really pretty as well. So, yeah, 2 of those for sure. Yeah. 15, what book do you need to read before the end of the year? Well, I don't know. I have such a big stack, a big pile of books. Before the end of the year, I would have to say, well, I really don't know, actually. I don't feel that there's any book that I necessarily have a sense of urgency around. Maybe that'll change. Maybe I'll watch a Booktube video and find a book and say, I need to read that book by the end of the year. My biggest hope by the end of 2025 is just to have read as many books as interest me and have as good of a reading experience as possible, to not waste time reading books I'm not enjoying. Like, really, The Nightingale, I should have DNF'd it, but I just pushed through because it had been on my shelf for so long and I wanted to see what all the hype was about, but I really did not enjoy that as a reading experience. So in the future, I think I will DNF more, read more library books, and try to work my way through the books I already own rather than buying more. So that's really my main goal. And yeah, for the rest of 2025, I hope I find more that I love. My current book that I'm reading is Look at Me by Jennifer Egan, which I got from the library. Absolutely loving this book. So far, I am about 88 pages in, and wow, this is blowing my mind. I am loving it. So this is a very, very early 5-star prediction for me, but if the book keeps on going as it has been, it could be one of my favorites of 2025. So yeah, we'll see where the rest of the year takes my reading, and I hope your reading year has gone well. I'd love to know what your favorite books of the year have been so far, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.